You know that thing your brain does at 2 a.m.? You're lying in bed, you should be asleep, and instead you're running the numbers. Rent's due on the 1st. Car insurance hit early this month. There's a bill you forgot about. And your brain just keeps cycling through it like a song you can't turn off, doing math it already did an hour ago, looking for a different answer that never comes. Now imagine going to bed and that voice just isn't there. Not because you got rich. Not because you won the lottery. But because somewhere in the back of your mind, you know there's enough to catch you if something breaks. Most financial gurus will tell you that peace of mind costs a fortune. 6 figures in the bank. A paid-off house. A net worth that ends in a bunch of zeros. But here's what they completely miss, and what neuroscience actually backs up. The single biggest shift in how your brain handles money doesn't happen at 6 figures. It happens way, way earlier. It happens at $5,000. That's the number where your brain literally stops operating in emergency mode and starts thinking like a different person. My name's Name, and this is Finovest Logic, the channel where we break down the real psychology behind money instead of just telling you to skip your morning coffee. I spend an embarrassing amount of time studying why some people build wealth almost on autopilot while others stay stuck running on the same financial treadmill for decades, even when they're earning good money. If you're the kind of person who actually wants to understand the mechanics of what's happening in your head, not just feel-good advice you'll forget by tomorrow, do me a favor and hit subscribe. And if this video changes how you see money even a little, drop a like so it reaches someone else who needs to hear it. Now let's get into it. Because what I'm about to show you about that $5,000 mark is going to reframe everything you thought you knew about willpower, discipline, and why you keep making money decisions you regret. Let me ask you something first. When you think about why you struggle to save, what's the explanation you've landed on? Be honest. Most people quietly believe it's a character flaw. I'm just bad with money. I have no discipline. I'm impulsive. You've probably told yourself some version of that. Here's the truth, and it's going to take a weight off your shoulders. It was never about discipline. Your brain was doing exactly what it was built to do. Think of your mind like a phone with way too many apps running in the background. You know how your phone gets hot, the battery drains in 2 hours, and everything lags, not because any single app is huge, but because 40 of them are quietly running at once. That's what financial stress does to your brain. Every unpaid bill, every how am I going to cover this, every silent worry is an app running in the background, eating your processing power. And it never closes. That's not a metaphor I made up to sound clever. That's almost exactly how researchers describe it. When money is tight, your brain dedicates a huge chunk of its bandwidth to monitoring the threat, and it does it constantly, even when you're trying to focus on something else entirely. So when you tell yourself you have no willpower, what's really happening is that you're trying to make good decisions on a device that's running at 5% battery with 30 tabs open. Now here's where it gets interesting. What does $5,000 actually do to that overloaded brain? It starts closing the tabs. To understand why $5,000 matters, you have to understand the part of your brain that's running the show when you're broke. Deep in the center of your brain there's a little almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. Its entire job is to scan for threats and sound the alarm. Tens of thousands of years ago, that alarm kept you alive when something in the bushes moved. The problem is, your amygdala can't tell the difference between a predator and a maxed-out credit card. To your survival brain, a threat is a threat. So when your bank balance is hovering near zero, that alarm is going off, quietly, constantly, in the background of everything you do. And when that alarm is on, it hijacks you. Stress floods your system with a hormone called cortisol, and cortisol does something sneaky. It pulls resources away from the smartest part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, the part right behind your forehead that handles long-term planning, patience, and impulse control. It's the part of you that should be saying, "Let's not buy that, let's save instead." But under chronic financial stress, that part of your brain is basically getting starved out. So picture what that means in real life. The exact moment you most need to think clearly about money, when you're stressed and broke, is the exact moment your brain is least equipped to do it. The planner goes quiet. The panic button takes over. This is why broke isn't just a number in a bank account. It's a brain state. And in that state, you take the first job that comes along, you stay in the relationship you should leave, you grab the quick dopamine hit of an impulse purchase because your survival brain wants relief right now and can't think about next month. Now stay with me, because here's the part almost nobody tells you about that $5,000. There's a famous body of research on what scarcity does to the mind. Scientists found that when people are consumed by money worries, their performance on basic reasoning tests drops dramatically. The effect was comparable to losing an entire night of sleep, or temporarily dropping more than 10 IQ points. Read that again. Financial stress can make a smart, capable person think like a sleep-deprived version of themselves. Not because they're less intelligent, but because so much of their mental horsepower is being spent just managing the worry. And here's the beautiful flip side. The moment you build even a small cushion, that bandwidth comes back online. Vanguard found that simply having around $2,000 set aside meaningfully increases people's sense of financial well-being. $2,000. Not a fortune. But by the time you cross into the $5,000 range, something bigger happens. You've now got enough to absorb the most common emergencies, a car repair, a medical bill, a missed paycheck, without the whole structure of your life collapsing. And the instant your brain registers "I can survive a surprise," the amygdala finally turns the alarm down. The cortisol drops. The prefrontal cortex, your planner, your strategist, your patient long-term thinker, wakes back up and gets its power back. You didn't get smarter. You got unblocked. The intelligence was always there. The $5,000 just gave it room to breathe. This is the real reason $5,000 is a turning point. It's not the money itself. It's that the money flips your brain out of survival mode and back into thinking mode. And once that switch flips, everything downstream changes. Let me show you exactly how. The first thing that changes is the most invisible, and honestly the most powerful. Your sense of time stretches out. When you're broke, your entire mental world shrinks down to a few days. You're not thinking about next year. You're barely thinking about next week. The only question your brain can hold is, how do I get to Friday? Researchers actually have a name for this. It's a kind of tunnel vision where the urgent crowds out the important. The leaky faucet you can't afford to fix becomes the flooded kitchen 6 months later. You're not being short-sighted because you're foolish. You're short-sighted because survival mode forces a short view. Now watch what happens after $5,000. Suddenly your brain can afford to look up. You start thinking in months instead of days. You catch yourself planning. You wonder what next year could look like. That single shift, from a horizon of days to a horizon of months, is the foundation of every wealthy decision you'll ever make. Because you cannot build a future you can't even picture. And for the first time, the picture comes into focus. But an expanded time horizon is just the beginning. The next change is one you'll feel in your relationships. Here's something nobody warns you about being broke: it doesn't just hurt your wallet. It changes your personality. When your brain is stuck in that high cortisol survival state, you're running on a shorter fuse on everything, not just money. You snap at people you love. Small problems feel like the end of the world. You're irritable, defensive, exhausted, and you can't figure out why, because you think you're just a stressed person. You're not. You're a person whose brain is rationing its energy for a fight that never ends. Studies on money and relationships find that financial stress is one of the biggest predictors of conflict between couples, and it's not because of the money itself, it's because of what the stress does to two people's nervous systems at the same time. After you cross that $5,000 line and the alarm quiets down, people around you will notice the change before you do. You become more patient. You stop catastrophizing every little thing. You can hear as we need to talk about money without your chest tightening. The cushion didn't just protect your bank account, it gave you back your composure. And calm people make far better decisions than panicked ones. Which leads straight into the next shift, maybe the most important one of all. This is the one that quietly makes people rich, so don't skip past it. When you're broke, every decision is made to survive. You take the job because you need the paycheck, not because it's right. You say yes because you're scared to say no. You can't negotiate your salary because you're terrified they'll pull the offer. Your survival brain has exactly one strategy: don't lose what little you have. And that strategy, repeated for years, is what keeps people stuck in place for entire decades. After $5,000, you get something economists basically never talk about but should: negotiating power with your own life. You have a few weeks of breathing room. So when a bad opportunity shows up, you can actually turn it down. When your boss is being unreasonable, you can push back, because you're not one missed paycheck from disaster. You start choosing things because they're good for you, not because you're cornered. Same person, same skills, same job market, but you're now negotiating from a position of strength instead of desperation. And here's the wild part: you usually don't even have to use that power. Just having it changes how you carry yourself, and people respond to that. Confidence is a financial asset, and $5,000 is where you buy your first piece of it. There's one more shift before we get to the part where most people blow it. And this one is permanent. Up to now, everything I've described could fade if the money disappeared. But this last change tends to stick, because it happens to your self-image. Think about what it actually takes to save $5,000 from scratch when you're not making big money. You had to say no to things you wanted. You had to watch where your money went. You had to do it over and over, for months, on the days you felt like it and especially on the days you didn't. That's not nothing. That's proof. And somewhere along the way, your brain quietly updates a file it keeps on you. The story flips from "I'm just bad with money" to "I'm someone who saves." That sounds small. It is not small. Because every future decision now runs through that new identity. The old you saw a sale and thought, "I deserve this." The new you sees the same sale and thinks, "That doesn't fit who I am now." You're not white-knuckling your willpower anymore, the good decision just feels like you. And once saving becomes part of your identity instead of a battle you fight every day, building wealth stops being exhausting and starts being automatic. That's the whole game. That's what people mean when they say wealth is a mindset. It's not magic. It's an identity your brain wrote after you proved something to yourself. So everything's pointing up. Which is exactly when most people sabotage the entire thing. Let me tell you how, so you don't. Here's where I watch people lose it, and it's heartbreaking because they're so close. You hit $5,000. The alarm quiets down. The stress lifts. And your brain, fresh off the relief, does something dangerous. It interprets that good feeling as permission. I've been so disciplined, I deserve a reward. So you book the trip. Or you upgrade the phone. Or you put it toward a car payment that stretches you right back to zero. And just like that, the cushion is gone, and within a few weeks, the alarm is back on, the cortisol is flooding, the planner brain shuts off, and you're right back in survival mode, wondering why you can never get ahead. I need you to understand the trap here, because it's biological, not moral. Saving money and spending money both give your brain a hit of relief. But spending gives you a faster, bigger, more immediate hit of dopamine. That's literally what it's designed to do. So your survival brain, the same one that got you into trouble, will whisper that blowing the $5,000 is fine, you earned it. It feels like a reward. It's actually a reset. You'd be paying to send your own brain back to the exact state you just escaped. That $5,000 is not a prize for good behavior. It's the foundation everything else gets built on. It's the thing keeping the alarm off so the smart part of your brain can stay online and do its work. Protect it like it's the most valuable thing you own, because right now, in terms of what it's doing for your mind, it is. Let me make this concrete, because I don't think people feel the true cost of hitting reset. Every time you build to $5,000 and then blow it, you don't just lose the money. You lose all the brain benefits that came with it, the calm, the clarity, the long view, the confidence, and you have to start the climb all over again from inside survival mode, which we already established is the worst possible state to be making money decisions from. So the second climb is harder than the first. And if you do it a third time, harder still. People who feel like they're always starting over with money usually aren't bad with money at all. They just keep paying to reset their own brain over and over and calling it bad luck. Now flip it. The person who builds to $5,000 and guards it gets to keep their brain in the good state, month after month after month. And from that calm, clear, confident state, the next $5,000 comes easier. Then the one after that easier still. Not because the math changed, but because they're finally making every decision with their full intelligence switched on instead of half of it hijacked by an alarm. That's the entire difference between people who slowly climb and people who feel permanently stuck. It's not income. It's whether they ever let their brain out of survival mode long enough to think. So let's bring this all the way back. $5,000 is not going to make you rich. It won't buy you a lifestyle. It won't impress anyone at a party. But it will do something far more valuable than any of that. It will give you your mind back. It quiets the alarm. It wakes up the planner. It stretches your sense of time, steadies your relationships, hands you a little bit of power over your own life, and slowly rewrites the story you tell yourself about who you are. That's not a financial milestone. That's a transformation in how you think, decide, sleep, and show up, and it starts at a number that is genuinely within your reach. Not someday. Now. So here's what I want you to do. Pick the number. 5,000. Make it the most protected thing in your life, and don't let your survival brain talk you into spending the very thing that's setting it free. Your future self, the calm one, the one who finally sleeps through the night, is built entirely out of the decision you make today. If this reframed money for you even a little, subscribe to Finovest Logic, because the next video breaks down the exact step-by-step system to get to that first $5,000 even on an average income, and it's easier than you think once your brain is on your side. I'll see you in that one.